Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, February 4th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Shelley Bueller, and I serve as chair of the commission alongside Commissioner Bob Archer and Commissioner Kevin Cook. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, first item, please.
First item is item 1, proclamations presentation. Presentation regarding Shawnee County Department of Corrections Juvenile Detention Facilities Accreditation. Brian Cole.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. Now, I'm going to ask you not to ask me how I got these beads. I wanted to make sure that I got you all beads, which will indicate where we did come from or where we went to.
All righty.
John Knight's not here, so he can't add to that.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Back in November, I think it was November 9th, 2015, I came before you with a request to travel out of state to attend the annual American Correctional Association conference that was being held, it was January 24th through the 27th, I believe, in New Orleans. And you graciously approved the travel for myself, Eve Kendall, Deputy Director, and Brandy Biltoff, Division Manager. Our purpose of going down there was twofold. One of them is that we wanted to network with our colleagues in corrections to understand the current trends and to learn, go to workshops and understand, where corrections is heading, how other agencies are doing the business, and where we can share ideas. The other and main reason we went down was to go to our hearing, which was the last stage in our accreditation process. And I wanted to start with a little history that many years ago, about 15, there was the vision that was put in place that was accepted and supported by the County Commission for the Department of Corrections to start taking the leap of faith, should I say, towards accreditation. And what accreditation means is that you allow outsiders to come in to your agency to poke, prod, go through every nook and cranny of your agency, your operation, to be as utmost transparent as you can, to come in and look to see if you meet and exceed the national standards on how you're supposed to operate a correctional agency. This is a voluntary program. This isn't something that is mandated. And we decided to take this step for the whole Department of Corrections. There are different standards and different additions to the standards, so we decided to take bits and pieces because we have to accredit the ADC, or the Adult Detention Center, separately from the Juvenile Detention Center. And we decided to take on the Juvenile Detention Center. It was smaller. They were under different standards. But to give you an idea of the standards, that we had approximately, I think, 368 non-mandatory standards, and I believe it was close 32 or 35 mandatory standards. The mandatory standards you have, which deal with life safety, emergency, food, things like that, you have to have 100%, which we did meet 100%. Of the other 368, we were at 97%. You have to meet 90% threshold for that. They did find that there was 11 deficiencies or areas that we did not meet. Several of those did have to go to statutory requirements that, for example, that they asked that the ACA asked that that a juvenile detention center not hold people who are post-conviction. Those statutes in Kansas allow for us to do that, which that's something we haven't changed. And there were a few physical plant areas that we just certainly couldn't meet. But overall, when we went to our hearing, the commissioner was out of Ohio who led our hearing, gave us back our report, and first of all said for your initial hearing, this was an outstanding report. I commend you all for your dedication, your willingness to have somebody come in, and your decision to meet and exceed these standards. I also thought it was important that with our local law enforcement, the Sheriff's Office, and the Topeka Police Department, they also meet accreditation. I also felt that the Department of Corrections and the community deserve to have their correctional services accredited as well. To make a long story short, the Shawnee County Department of Corrections Juvenile Detention Center was awarded full accreditation. And it is a tremendous achievement. I have the luckiest job because I was able to be there, but able to accept or go talk to the media, things like that. But I'm not the one who did the work, not by any means. I have Brandy and I have Eve who led this project, and they led it, and the staff at the Juvenile Detention Center. They did the work. They're the ones who made this work. We all had to pitch in. We all had to roll up our sleeves late at night during this audit process. But I'm here to tell you that staff embraced this. They understand the importance of accreditation. On top of that, they understand the importance and the hard work it's going to take for us to maintain our accreditations, because in 3 years, they're going to be back at our door knocking for reaccreditation. And this is not an easy task. And for those who've gone through accreditations, they'll tell you that there's some sleepless nights. I was nervous when I went to the hearing. I also got down there and ended up having the flu the whole time, so it was between conference there. I stayed the whole time in New Orleans in the hotel, true story. But I am very, very proud of the staff. Again, they did the work. And I also wanted to have Eve and Brandy come up real quick. Where are they at? You have to have good people around you as a leader, and in my case, I always want to make sure that I put people who are stronger and smarter than me around me. And I've done that with Brandy. Brandy is our department audit compliance person, a job that I would not want in a million years. A job that takes tons of reading, tons of staying on top of people to lead this, and she lives and breathes this for the Department of Corrections. She's not afraid to hold me accountable. Brian, we're not meeting this standard, or you're not meeting this. But I think it's important that this was a team effort. It truly was, and the staff at the youth center did a tremendous job. But I have to commend Eve and Brandy on their leadership in this. It was not mine. It was theirs. They're the ones who stood there. I have no problem standing to the side and being able to say who did the work, and they did it. And I wish I could fill this whole room up with the Department of Corrections, JDC staff. Obviously, they're working because this was their accreditation, Shawnee County's, and they're the ones that did the work. And I hope that if anything comes out of this, that this was not me, this was the department, and this was the staff who did this. So I'm very honored to be the director. I'm very blessed, and I'm very blessed and honored to have staff that are able to put up with me and to be able to lead these kind of projects. So, Brandy, do you have anything?
Brian's mentoring me, so I know I have to say something. He is very accurate when he says that the staff, they worked hard and long, creating what we needed to do and changing the mindset from 15 years ago to today, to making it more more able to meet the standards and to get this done. Our staff is very proud. We're very proud of them. Like he said, we can say let's do this and let's do that, but it's not till you get to the people that actually have to make it happen. And they made it happen, and we have wholehearted belief that they're going to continue to make it happen. And I'm very proud of our agency, and I'm very proud of them. And I'm sorry they can't be here, but they're excited and they're happy to present this to you.
Very good. Please share with the rest of the staff our appreciation for their efforts, and congratulations. It is a great achievement, and thank you for your continued hard work. Commissioners, do you have anything to add?
Just might add, this is a really, really big deal. And this is a big deal for Shawnee County. 3 years ago, I met with the Department of Corrections staff, the senior leadership. Captain Bilthall said, we want to do accreditation of the Juvenile Detention Center. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And then she pulled out volume after volume after volume of all of the regulations. And so I know that your department has worked very tirelessly over the last 3 years to come up to standards. There was the field team that came in to inspect our facility, all of the work that went into that, going down to the conference to interview. So this is a really big deal for Shawnee County and something you should be proud of being able to accomplish. So thank you.
It is a big deal, and I'm proud. It's one thing when we tell each other that we're doing a good job or moving forward. It's something else when our customers or an outside agency, an independent agency, looks at our operation and says, you're doing a good job. That's important. So again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. And our next goal is we are going to be looking at the adult and our annex. We have some things that we still have priorities, but it is our goal to make that entire agency in this county accredited and to make them the community they deserve.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Madam
Commissioner-
Chair?
Yes, and the consent, I was just going to mention that for those of you who aren't familiar with the consent agenda, a consent agenda is kind of at the discretion of the chair, but I don't consult, I cannot consult with the other two commissioners on agenda items, so at any time, a commissioner can pull a consent item off the agenda and place it on the regular agenda. Sometimes I think it's kind of routine, but Commissioner Cook.
With that being said, I would move that item number 9 be moved to F1
Okay.
for further discussion.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Cook to remove item 9 off the consent agenda and place as F1. I will second that motion. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And are there further questions on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
So motion to approve items 1 through 8, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, this morning we have voucher report dated February 3rd, 2016. Total amount of vouchers, $836,673.20. The significant items are capers and withholding taxes of $360,000 and $164,000 going to the Director of Vehicles. I've reviewed the report, have no questions, and make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
So motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I will move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Item B, audit finance, number 1, consider awarding bid for the printing of envelopes and business cards.
Morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. You had previously given us the authority to go out and get bids on envelopes and business cards. And since these envelopes and business cards are so much of a commodity and pretty interchangeable, we were able to go with the lowest bid on each of these. Michelle has listed those companies that we would like to award those bids to for these different items, and I ask for your approval.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archer and second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Item B2, consider approval to solicit bids for copy machine rentals.
On this item, we are asking for your permission to solicit bids on copy machines. I have on here copy machine rentals, but as you know, copy machines are now used as scanners, printers, and fax machines. I think I use ours more as a scanner or a printer than I actually do for copiers. But in the past, we have used the state contract for these. We have discovered in certain instances that the state contract is not always the cheapest. We also had a problem in the contracts, the state contract. If they extended the contract, then there was the question of whether it extended our contract as well. And so we've had those issues. So I think we really need to look at this. I think we need to see what's available and see what our options are. We do not trade out all of our copiers at once, like the state, I believe, does. What we do is, as those rentals come due, as the contract comes due, then we replace them at that point in time. So this would just be for those as they come due. Given all that, I think it's prudent that we, solicit bids and we see what is available. Pat, our IT director, really is the one that wrote the specs. Those are attached here because they are so integrated with our IT system now, because of all the things that these copiers will do. So, it's a base, and then there's different options, say, if one department needs color, or, those types of things, if they need a higher volume of copies, that type of thing. So, I ask for your approval for this, and
Thank you, Betty.
try to answer any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Director Greiner, how does this affect somebody that's on the state contract? If you're a vendor and you've been awarded the state contract, are you bound by the terms of the state contract in submitting this bid, or can you bid something different than what your state contract allocates?
Well, what we are looking for is a bid just to our county.
Okay.
So what I would like to do is, whether the vendor uses their state contract pricing or not, it would be a bid, it was a proposal to us. This is what they would charge us, and I would like for us to have a contract directly with that vendor, so then we do not have this problem of the state extending and then the question about whether that applies to us or not.
And would that be sent out in a memorandum or letter to our current vendor so they would know that they're not bound by whatever the terms of their state contract may be?
Yeah, well, currently we have one vendor that is under the state contract, and yes, and I have had a conversation with them, and they know that this is coming out, and they were anxious to bid on it.
Okay.
So,
I would move then for approval of the request to solicit bids.
Thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item B3, update on Shawnee County revenue.
good morning. Let me try to get this on. There we go. Okay, this morning what I have for you is a revenue report for the year of 2015. At this point in time, it's too early to give you a report on the expenditures because we still have those coming in, especially like utilities and those types of things. If they were for service in 2015, of course, we have to report those in 2015. So we're still working on the expenditure side. This is a little bit preliminary on the revenue side, but it will give you a pretty good feel for where we ended up at the end of the year. Okay, we'll start out with the total revenue. As you can see, our total revenue, whoa. It's changing on me. I think I need to come to this one maybe. I think that mouse is moving. Okay, let's try again. There we go. Okay, we'll start with the total revenue. You can see that our total revenue for 2015 was $100,899,283 compared to what we had budgeted of $99,211,106. Our revenue for 2014 was $104,680,013. I'll go through each of these categories, but you can see with the different color. Whoa. I don't know why that's doing that. Okay. That's kind of eerie. But you can see by the different categories how much of our revenue is made up of these different areas. The blue on the bottom, of course, is property taxes, which is by far the largest. The red is other taxes. The green, the little green, is property-related fees. The purple is charges for services, and then the top is miscellaneous revenue. I will go through each category in total, and talk about the variances in each one. But you can see our overall variance is, we have a positive variance from budget of $1,688,000, which is about 1.7% of our budget. And while we're talking about this as a whole, my philosophy in budgeting is to be conservative, because I don't want us to get into the position where our revenues are not meeting our expenditures or what we have budgeted as expenditures. So this is, I think, 1.7% is within a reasonable percentage of this, and still to make sure that we have the funds we need to meet all of our obligations. Okay, our first category is property taxes. You will see that we received $72,863,000 compared to our budget of $72,421,000. So we have a positive variance, or we received more than our budget, of $442,000. Now that is made up of delinquent tax. We actually received $419,000 more in delinquent taxes than I had estimated. So I think that is a really good sign that we are, those, delinquent taxes are being paid. On the actual real estate taxes, we were over budget $90,000, so pretty much right on target on our real estate taxes. And then our neighborhood redevelopment rebates that we pay back, those were actually $71,000 more. So that, and those are rebates we pay out, so that reduces our revenue for that. So that kind of makes up the difference of that. You can see our variance from last year is $399,000, and we received $399,000 more than last year. So they're again within a reasonable amount between this year and last year. Okay, going on to other taxes, we received $13,250,000 compared to a budget of $12,344,000. On this one, when I look at the variances, the total variance is $906,000. The biggest portion of that is motor vehicles. If you will remember, in last year, in 2014, the state had underestimated motor vehicles. So we kind of, then we got an estimate this year was higher, so we were hopeful that they were closer. Well, it was still $806,000 over what the state had estimated. So that's the bulk of this. We also, our special assessments came in $71,000 over what we had estimated. Commercial motor vehicle fees, and this is for any commercial vehicle, on their property taxes, that was $57,000 over what we budgeted. But then the heavy trucks, they came in $34,000 under budget. So, you kind of have to estimate what you anticipate it will be. And let's see. In this category, we were actually 7.3% over budget. Okay, the next category is property-related fees, and this is a fairly small piece of our revenue, but the reason I split this one out this year was because this is an area that the legislature changed how the mortgage registration tax was collected. It's collected on per page now rather than just the percentage amount they had used. So we really were trying to make our best guess on what the impact would be. You can see this year we collected $2,259,000 compared to a budget of $2,108,000. So we are actually $151,000 over budget on this. That majority of that, $112,000 of that, is from the registered deeds, which would be mostly that the change with the registration tax, and then there's also an additional heritage fee that we collect now. So it was really kind of hard to know how that was all going to wash out. As you can see, we are about almost $100,000 less than last year. Planning was also 39,000 over on their fees this year. The next one is charges for services. We've collected $4,465,000 compared to a budget of $4,632,000, which on this one, we are actually under budget of $137,000. And looking in this one is a little more varied in the different departments. Parks and Rec was under budget $181,000, and we've kind of seen that all through the year. We had a very wet spring especially, and I will not be going into it this time, but as we've seen, their expenses were also down. So their revenue was down as was their expenses. Let's see, the sheriff's department actually was $70,000 under budget, so they were under budget with what they received. But the Departments of Correction was $184,000 over budget, so they actually, and there again, that's an estimate based on how many prisoners they think they will have from other jurisdictions that pay us for that. And then the district court, their revenue was down $76,000. So, you know, all those together is what makes up this variance. And you can see, I'll point out too, you can see the variance here from last year. We received $1,525,000 less than last year. But the majority of that, I want to remind you, is we moved the golf for the 2 golf courses out of this, and so that's about $1,125,000 that we moved out of this. So that's the majority of the difference between the 2 years. Okay, the next category is other revenue. You can see we received $8,061,000 compared to a budget of $7,705,000. So that's a positive variance of $356,000. And looking in that, the biggest category is our city and county highway fees that we received. We actually received $450,000 more than had estimated on that, or I believe we get the state estimate on that one also. Our franchise fees were actually down $150,000, and then we had a clawback fee of $200,000 that contributed to that variance also. Again, if you look at this one compared to last year, we are down $3,754,000 from last year, and that is made up primarily of the Parks and Rec merger. You know, we received $1 million less this year than that, and the defeasance money last year we received about $2 million in several different defeasance. So that kind of makes up that. So if you have any, oh wait a minute, I do have another one here. This just shows the percentages of the different categories, and you can see by far the largest is property taxes. That is 72% of our revenue. The next highest is the other taxes, which are the property taxes and those kind of things. That's 13%, and then property-related fees 2%, charges for services 5%, and then miscellaneous of 8%. So now I will ask if you have any questions.
Thank you, Betty. Questions? Yes.
Very quickly. Betty, was last year the last year we're going to get money from the city
Yes.
on Parks and Rec, and it was,
Yes.
I think it was $1 million.
Yes.
So for 2016, the city is going to see savings of over $5 million
Yes.
due to the Parks and Rec merger that we had.
That's correct.
So, interesting.
It's good.
I remember when we talked about that, the plan was to give city taxpayers the money back. I don't know that ever happened. Thank you, Madam Chair.
A good reminder.
Mhm.
Yes. Betty, the only thing I might add is just, this is all general fund. So
Yes, it
this
is.
does not include solid waste and recycling.
That's correct. Solid waste is a separate enterprise fund, and as an enterprise fund, it is run more like a business. So it is completely separate and will remain separate. This, yes, this is just the general fund.
And property taxes do not fund solid waste.
That's correct. It
Correct.
is purely fee-based.
Okay, all right, good job. Yes.
And then, Betty, next month, will we be able to anticipate looking at the Parks and Recreation as we started to pull out some of these accounts to see whether or not they're able to pay for themselves as it relates to some of our services?
You mean on the?
Revolving fund.
On the revolving fund, yes. Well, we had the revolving fund all of this year.
Right.
For the two golf courses. Now, we are adding to that, the summer camps, that they will be, those that will be self-sustaining, those will be, we'll be reporting on that separate too for 2016.
And I know that we're still collecting those expenditures at the tail end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, Health Agency. Number 1, consider approval of fee schedule from Medical Provider Resources, MPR, for provider enrollment services, reflecting an increase from $270 per month to $594 per month for 2016.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alice Weingartner, Health Agency. As I mentioned the last time I was before you with the fee schedule increase with NPR, this is the other fee schedule that they have for provider enrollment services. This fee schedule is effective January 1st, 2016. This service provides us with the opportunity, again, to keep those providers consistently credentialed with the various insurance programs that we bill for. This is a pretty significant increase, and when I visited with the vendor about it, one of the reasons the increase is happening is because historically community health centers have not billed many private insurance companies, and over the years we have added that to our revenue stream. And so because of that added administrative work on behalf of the vendor, that is why they've raised their costs associated with this. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Alice. Any questions?
We move for approval of the annual fee increase.
Thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Cook. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item D, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-35-2015 with Larson and Associates, Inc., granting them access to the grounds of the Kansas Expo Center to drill a monitoring well pursuant to KDHE requirements.
Morning, Commissioners. Terry Birtles, Parks and Recreation, asking for your approval to the attached access agreement with Larson and Associates Incorporated out of Lawrence. They're asking for access to the grounds of the Kansas Expo Center to drill a monitoring well for petroleum migration. You might recall and know that the old quick shop there was torn down and new one replaced. As part of that process, they work with, the owner works with KDHE to determine whether there's any migration of petroleum products through that area. There's an attached map that shows the location of one well on the Kansas Expo Center grounds. There is no cost to Shawnee County for the work. It's all paid for through the Department of Health and Environment Petroleum Products Trust Fund. There's no cost to us. We don't foresee any inconvenience or disruption to what's happening on the grounds of the Expo Center, and we don't see any ongoing problems with the location of the well at that site. I might say we do have a couple of other wells that are located close by former storage tanks, and my history has been that they don't create any problems. So we're asking for your approval for that access agreement.
Thank you, Chair. Questions?
Move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archer and second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item E, Corrections. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-36-2015 with Professional Fire Alarm Systems, Inc. to provide inspection for the Department Facilities Fire Detection System at an annual cost of $10,915 for 3 years.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Department of Corrections. This is an agreement for a multi-year, I'm asking for approval, of a multi-year agreement with Professional Fire Alarm Systems to provide inspection to our facilities, fire alarm systems and detection systems. It was about 7 years ago that we did solicit bids for this to make sure that we're getting the best competitive and quality price, and that Professional Fire's alarm systems did come in quite lower than who we're currently using. This is a multi-year agreement that will incorporate the new kitchen, and also we agreed on a 3-year cost of $10,000, $915, which is lower than the original agreement. So we are saving money and expanding our services, and they are quality services. They've done very well. We have the money budgeted, and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Other questions?
I move approval of the multi-year agreement.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Motion by Commissioner Cook and second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Added item F1, consider request to approve increased vacation accrual for Mr. Evan Meyer, county electrician, from 4.0 hours to 5.0 hours per pay period.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. The item before you is really following up on the hiring process of Evan Meyer as the county electrician. I inadvertently, in the original memo, when we did the hiring of him and you approved that, I did not include the benefit package of that within the memo. Evan is in the negotiations during the recruitment process. The thing that put him over the top was giving him a little extra vacation time. And I asked that you approve that so that we can move forward.
Thank you. Questions?
This may be a question for HR more than, I believe, the facilities. But is this something that we see with other employees, or is this a standard practice, or is this a deviation from what would otherwise be normal practice for Shawnee County?
It's not a normal practice. This is a new position. This is a different situation because it's a new position that we hadn't had before. And, through negotiations, we have had situations in the past with other open positions where I have advised the department head, if you want to deviate from the HR policy manual, which are the rules that are set by the Board of County Commissioners, you need to go to the Board of County Commissioners and seek approval for doing so. You made the rules, you can waive the rules. Of course, we have the rules for a reason, but I think this situation is different since it is a new position that we hadn't had experience with before. Bill was in negotiations trying to find, an acceptable compensation package for this particular employee. Vacation time was a little more important and a little bit higher salary, and so that seemed to be where the negotiations went. We don't do it all the time, but since this was a new position, I think it makes a little bit of sense. It gives credit for prior service with a similar agency, which we do that in other situations.
So this is not creating a completely unheard of or new standard for Shawnee County?
I don't think so.
And Commissioners, I might note, that was my concern and why I asked for it to be taken off consent, is just so that in a matter of transparency and openness, because I want to make sure that we're open on all of this and a little bit different benefits packages than we might have for other employees, and making sure that we're not setting Shawnee County up for, well, you allowed that person to have something, why didn't I get something? So that way it's explanation to the employees.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Further questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Archer. I'll second the motion. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Item 5, Administrative Communications. Number 1, update on Shawnee County 4-H.
Good morning, Commissioners. Candace Mearpool, Shawnee County Extension Office, 4-H Youth Development. And I just wanted to come and take time to give you a little bit of update on our 4-H program. We are very busy right now. We are preparing for Club Days, which is February 13th at Shawnee Heights Middle School. I do want to say that Shawnee Heights Middle School has always been a great partner to host this all-day event where youth get to practice public speaking and performance. They can also do instrumental solos, vocal solos, plays, dance, and youth do it in front of a judge. They get a rating, and the top youth in every room also get to go to a regional Club Days with 8 other counties and do their piece again. So it's a great opportunity, which we do let all of our youth 5 to 18 get to participate in. So public speaking is always something that 4-H alumni say 4-H really helped them with. And I think it's because we get them started at 5 and 7 years old speaking in front of a group. So it's one of the best aspects of our program. All of the aspects are good. Another thing we have in 4-H in February is our Shawnee County Invitational Dog Show. A lot of people are unaware that our kids in the Dog Project do agility, obedience, and showmanship, and do dog shows all around the Northeast Kansas area. So it just goes to say, I always say it, there is a 4-H project for every youth in Shawnee County. There's something for everybody to do. And the dog show is really impressive, so if you've never been to it, I would encourage you to go. It's really cute. But mainly what I wanted to talk about today is the progress of our special interest clubs, or SPIN clubs for short. Special interest clubs is a model of 4-H that was introduced by Kansas in 2013, and Shawnee County has been doing it from the beginning. What makes it different from a community club is it only meets 6 times and studies one project, and that concludes the 4-H participation for that year. Community clubs meet year-round, youth do multiple projects, and it's a year-long commitment, which unfortunately some families can no longer commit to these days. So in 2013, we had 1 spin club at the Topeka Rescue Mission, and we had 19 members. So that was our first toe in the water for that. In 2014, we had 4 clubs with 53 members, and last year we had 7 clubs with 58 members. So we believe spin clubs is fitting a need in Shawnee County, and we deliver them mainly in after-school programs and summer school programs where we can bring in some curriculum, we can bring in some hands-on learning, and we can really help with the enrichment of these programs through 4-H. I wanted to give you, 4-H goes from October to September, so I do have my 2014-2015 year in review. Our enrollment was up last year about 5%, and community club enrollment and spin club enrollment were both up. So it's not like spin clubs are the only thing growing. Community club enrollment was growing as well. Brooke Gray had over 6,000 contacts with school enrichment. That's pretty consistent. We're anywhere from 6 to 7, so we were happy with that. And then our fair entries were down a little bit, but I blame the chickens. Flew last summer, so poultry were not allowed. And if you went to the fair this year, it was very quiet and eerie because in Expo Hall you can always hear the chickens. But we did have 2,832 actual entries and exhibits during the Shawnee County Fair, but usually we have over 3,000. I included some pictures, but I did want to, the bottom corner with the youth and the adults at Emerald Circle last year. This is a statewide 4-H awards banquet, and normally counties are lucky to have 1 or 2 people recognized. Shawnee County actually took both Volunteer of the Year awards for the state of Kansas. We had 2 state 4-H project winners. There's 33 projects, and our youth won 2 of the state awards. And then we had 2 scholarship recipients, which is also very competitive. So I was very proud with how our whole program fared at our state awards banquet this year. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 2, update on Shawnee County's Extension Agriculture Program.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. I'm Leroy Russell, and I'm with the Shawnee County Extension Office, and I do the agriculture programs for the county. There's been lots of big changes in agriculture over the last 100-plus years. I think most of you probably know that originally there was approximately 60% that lived on farms in the U.S., and now we're down to 2%. So we've changed our farming practices quite a ways, and each year we try to change with what needs to be done and to increase production. Last spring we did some forums kind of scattered across the county to see what we should be doing in the five main areas that we cover in Extension. And that's the global food, water, health, growing tomorrow's leaders, and community vitality are all the ones that we try to cover here. We listened to the forum and said, what kind of programs do we need to do to educate our farmers and growers in the county? And you probably say, well, we don't have much, we're an urban county. But I handed out the census from 2012. We do them every 5 years, so we should have another one in 2017. The stats for Shawnee County. And as you, the numbers of farms have been going down slightly. The size of farms have been going up slightly. So you usually see that kind of go in each direction. In 2012, we had a 50 million plus sales of livestock and crops here in Shawnee County. So it is a very large group there, or a large amount of money that's been raised there. 41,000 in crops and 8,000 plus in livestock. And the government payments were up, and that's on here too. And part of the reason government payments was because we went through drought. So if you go through a drought situation and you don't have production, then that's when some of the government payments kick into place. As you look down through on the back side of the page, there is the totals for Shawnee County, and it's surprising what we're ranked the highest in agriculture. Number one is probably, we're second in the state in pigeons and raising of pigeons. You don't think of that here in the county. Horses is very high. We have the 8th highest in horse. We're 4th highest in Christmas tree raising, and then also the greenhouses are high. So those are the ones that we're considered very high in the state as far as production. It also has the numbers on there. You can look through and see, you know, how many farms and how many this and that. And again, they do this every 5 years. Used to be 10 years. From the forums, we decided what topics we needed to cover in Shawnee County. Usually we put on about 10, 12. We partner with other groups and other counties to put some of these on also. And so we had probably 40 plus programs that was offered to our farmers and agriculture people in Shawnee County in all sorts of topics. I included the coffee, cookies, and conversation series. We just had one earlier this week. We took the forums and looked at what things should be covered for our people, what they wanted. One was on leases and what should be done with leases. I'm getting lots of calls on leases because, of course, you know, the farming has went down quite a bit in the last several years. And again, it's very important on your property taxes. I saw Betty give that. All the crop ground went up quite a bit for property taxes because it's assessed value, or it's not. It's production over the last 8 years is what they take the average of, and so we did have very productive and some very high prices, and so that's the reason the property taxes went up on most of the farm ground. Some of it was 15 to 20%. I had some calls with a concern, but it's what the profit is on it. And that's what we try to do, is get them as much profit as possible. Our next one that we did was on, we're having lots of problems with farm transition, how to get that farm to the next generation, and also with women that are operating a farm. They need help with, since sometimes, a lot of times they're left with what do we do with the farm. We did soil health basics earlier for the crop farmers, ponds and livestock watering, and then wildlife will be the ones that we will cover this year in the county. The Kansas River Valley Experiment Field update is the next sheet. We work very closely. I think you probably know that we have a research farm here in Shawnee County. There's one close to Silver Lake, and there's one close to Rossville. They do lots of experiments, and from those experiments, we try to teach our farmers what works the best and what doesn't. We're doing herbicides, we're doing how you work the ground, what type of fertilizers. There's over 40 demonstrations that they're doing to compare a lot of these things, and that's the reason they call us research and extension. They do the research, we take it to the educators and or to the farmers and the ranchers to try to get them to change to better their production. And also, another challenge this year, and I put in here the veterinary feed directive, and you probably heard some of that on the news. We'll be having, this is one that's going to be in Overbrook, but we'll also be doing one in Shawnee County. Farm Bureau, I usually partner with others. Farm Bureau as well as Premier Farm and Home, we're going to all put together a program to tell our ranchers and farmers what they need to do with feeds. Because anything that is fed that has antibiotics in it is going to go with a veterinary prescription in the future, starting in 2017. So our farmers, ranchers, whether it's TSC, Orslins, all of those that are selling any type of feed, even milk replacer with antibiotics in it, they can't do that unless it's a prescription in years to come. So anyway, we try to do programs that our farmers and ranchers would like to see. Is there questions that you have of me?
Questions, Commissioner?
No. Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you.
Leroy, I might just point out, in our districts, all of us have districts, and they serve not only the residents within the city limits of those districts, but then the unincorporated areas of those districts. And I will say, I think my district has the most in that area that you talk about where there's farming.
Right.
And so, I know we have been having some discussions with the planning department about a comprehensive plan. And I think in the interest of preserving ag land,
Yes.
we have a rich Kansas River Valley, very rich soils. And so that's kind of my outlook on the comprehensive plan. I know we have plans within the city, but in the unincorporated areas, what types of plans do we have going forward to preserve that rich agricultural land? And so I know that I think Barry has had some discussion about maybe just some facilitation and looking forward to the comprehensive plan, kind of the community meetings and that sort of thing. But I just want to point that out, and a $50 million economic impact is pretty significant.
And that's just on crops and livestock.
And
That
livestock,
didn't include the getting it ready for market.
Right.
And you're right, there is a problem, because every year that we've done this census, it has been going down the number of acres in farm ground and pasture ground. And it is important probably to have an organized way to develop some of these other areas, because you'd hate to see a big development go in some of our best farm ground down along Highway 24.
If anything, just a guide.
Yes.
And that's what I look for in a
Okay.
comprehensive plan. So just wanted to mention that.
We'll put that on there and see what kind of program we can do in the future.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 3, report on Project Topeka 2016.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Kimberly Phillips, and I'm the office assistant here in the County Commission office. Jane Rezac and I are privileged to be the coordinators for the Shawnee County Employee Project Topeka Drive for 2016. We're collecting food and donations throughout the month of February. Project Topeka is celebrating 30 years of supporting local food banks here in Shawnee County. The employees of Shawnee County government serve the people in our jobs every day, and they give generously by supporting and donating to Project Topeka. Last year, Shawnee County employees' monetary donations totaled $8,760, and we also collected non-perishable foods to help the hungry in Shawnee County. Each dollar we donate, with the bulk purchasing power of Project Topeka, provides more than 1.5 pounds of food for the hungry through 7 different food banks here in Shawnee County. In 2015, Shawnee County employees contributed an equivalent of 15,300 pounds of food. All donations are welcome, canned and non-perishable foods, monetary donations, and auction items. Various county departments sponsor money-making projects, contests, and challenges throughout all county offices. Right now, we're asking our employees for donations for our online auction. Any new, or newly crafted items that are able to be donated are needed. We really, really need these auction items. We ask that those auction donations are brought to our office no later than the end of business on February 25th to make it to the auction site. We challenge all of Shawnee County to go bigger this year and participate as much as they can. Bring in non-perishable foods, support departmental money-making projects, and donate to our online auction that begins on February 29th. Feed the hungry of Shawnee County.
Very good, thank you. And I know it's a lot of extra work, so I know we all appreciate
Yes.
your efforts, Kim, and Jane, your efforts as well. Thank you. Any other administrative communications from departments?
Good morning, Commissioners. Mitch List, Director of Event Services, Kansas Expo Center. I'd like to welcome everyone out to the annual Boat and Outdoor Show. Starts this Friday at 1 o'clock, runs through Sunday. And then on another note, Monday we went on sale for our Capital City Carnage Demolition Derby. This is our second Demolition Derby. It is promoted by the same promoter that does our November Blizzard Bash, which was voted World's Best Demolition Derby. The one this April actually has a $30,000 payout for the winner, so we'll be expecting the biggest and best for this one. Tickets start at just $11. Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioners, Rich Eckert, County Councilor. I thought I'd do our legislative update today. We're going to do this on each Thursday. I'm going to talk first about a bill that could have a lot of ramifications for two of our departments. Senate Bill 367 basically reforms the Kansas laws on juvenile justice. And there was a committee formed in 2015, and they basically worked all year. And the bill, basically what it's going to do, what they're going to try to do is de-emphasize incarceration and outside placement. So we think, of course, of the juvenile facility, but we also have the villages here in Shawnee County. The theory behind the new bill is to keep the kids in the community that they grew up in. And if anyone tells you that they fully understand the bill, however, be careful. It's 103 pages long, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to read all of it. So it's very comprehensive. I will point out that the district attorneys and the county attorneys are pretty solidly opposed to this bill, as they see it perhaps as a soft-on-crime issue. So we don't quite know where that's going to go, but if it does go through, it'll have really large ramifications for how juveniles are treated in this county. And KAC hasn't finished their financial review of the bill, so we don't have that at this time. But it's something to watch, and it will be one of the biggest pieces of legislation that move through. The rest of this that I'm going to talk about, you can see that there's going to be a theme to it, and the theme is the Kansas legislature does not like local control. I don't know any other way to say it. The first one I'm going to talk about is a bill that was introduced by Secretary of State Kobach. As you know, we've had a tax lid placed upon us, and there's a new bill that's going to try to move that up to 2016. So that's kind of a bill that puts one arm behind our back. This is the bill that puts the other arm behind our back. What this bill does, it provides that if you that you may not authorize the use of public funds or public vehicles, machinery, et cetera, for the time of any officer or employee for which you are compensated to expressly advocate the nomination, election, or defeat of a candidate to state or local office, or the passage or defeat of any question submitted election. In other words, if we put on for a vote the question of raising the mill levy, once you've placed it on the ballot, you can't talk about it anymore at all. And I don't quite know the reasoning of this, but it doesn't really have it says that if you violate this, you're going to be guilty of a Class C misdemeanor, but we don't know who will prosecute it. But for instance, if we put the question of the Expo Center on the ballot, to renovate that in a bond election. If later on you tell your wife you hope that passes, you've just violated the law. So I don't know why that's a thing, but it's actually being heard right now. The hearing started at 9:30 on this particular bill. That's Senate Bill 368. Another one is Senate Bill 360, and this deals with how we have executive sessions, how we close our meetings. As you know, right now, we only have to do two things. We have to provide the legal justification for closing the meeting, and then the time and place at which the open meeting shall resume. This bill adds a third factor to that. I'm going to just read it verbatim. We have to describe the particular subject to be discussed during the closed or executive meeting. And those are rather simple words. We all know what they mean, but when you put them together in that order, I don't know what it means. It seems awfully vague. We already give a legal justification, but now they want us to describe the particular subject. And obviously, if you describe it enough, there's no reason to have an executive session. So it's pretty vague, and that hearing was already there, already had this week, and I was there, and someone did stand up and say, that doesn't really mean anything. So we'll follow that one and see where that one goes as well. Senate Bill 65 concerns firearms. Every single year we have new firearm legislation. This one really goes towards our human resource policy, our manual on human resources. And this one provides that no public employer shall restrict or otherwise prohibit by personnel policies any employee who is licensed under this act from carrying a concealed handgun while engaged in the duties of such employee's employment outside of such employer's place of business, including while in the means of conveyance. And I think what that means is they're going to be able to have that concealed carry gun in their car or as they're walking down the street. If they're in our employ and doing our business, they get to carry their gun there. We still will be able to restrict it from the courthouse because it is a secured facility. So we'll watch that one as well. And then the final one I want to bring up is House Bill 2325. This one concerns how we collectively bargain. And this hearing was on Tuesday, I believe. But this one provides that the public shall be given notice of any collective bargaining session at least 24 hours before the time of such meeting as specified in the notice through the manner prescribed as the Kansas Open Meetings Act. So when we sit down and have our negotiations with the Teamsters, for instance, we have to give a 24-hour notice, and it's an open meeting. So that one certainly changes the way we do business. The unions are actually split on this. I saw in the newspaper article that one of the unions actually testified in favor. So the problem is we don't know how far it drills down. There are times that we just need a simple meet and confer. We have to have a meet and confer obligation with the union if we're going to change a policy, and that's as simple as a phone call. I mean, sometimes we'll just call the union steward and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, and we've met our legal obligation. The question will be, do we have to give 24 hours notice before that phone call and allow the media to sit in on that? So we don't know how far that drills down, but we'll work our way through that. So there are more bills dealing with local government that I feel comfortable standing at this podium giving you in the time that I have. So I've just picked the 4 or 5 that we studied this week and the ones that have hearings. So there are more, and we'll probably be reading about them in the paper as well.
Thank you, Rich. Questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask Rich something? Rich, our County Clerks Association has been following the one that Betty was talking about earlier about changing the date of the
Property tax lid
from December from 18 to 16. But they had made a comment that there's not a committee hearing been set. Has Senator Donovan's office, have you heard anything about that?
Are you talking about the new tax lid bill?
Yes. That they're having trouble getting a date. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard about that yet. I didn't see that in the last KAC bulletin that went out either. But you're talking about them. Right now, our budget is due August 25th of each year, and the bill that changes the tax lid from 2018 to 2016 acknowledges that it's very hard to have an election with that time. So they have said that if we have an election, your time to get the budget into the state moves to October 1st. And that's an attempt to give us an extra several weeks to have the results of the election and then formulate policy. KAC has pointed out that's still not good enough because the appraiser still has to set values, and the county clerk has to turn the budget number into the mill levy. And again, that's all work that we typically do in June and July. And now you're having to condense that into, we have to wait to see what happens with the election, and then you have an October 1st deadline. So the Kansas Association of Counties is still saying thanks, but no thanks. That's still not enough time to get this done.
Okay, yes.
Rich, when we talk about the tax lid and going to a ballot, we're talking about a special election at that point.
It could be, yes, that's true. The other way to do it is to try to forecast a year in advance and put it on a November election to say for the following year, we would like our mill levy not to exceed, and then you put a not to exceed number on there. That's one way that you could do it as well. So there's two ways, yes.
But when we talk about special elections, the last special election was the school bond, cost the taxpayers in excess of close to $200,000. Is that?
Yeah, and we would be talking about a county-wide special election, so the cost would be even more than that.
So when we're talking about taxpayers' money being spent, we're really talking about tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars that's going to be wasted for no reason. That's an observation.
Well, if one of these bills passes, you don't have to talk about it, so.
So we'll just infringe people's right of First Amendment, so.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Observation.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anyone else for administrative communications? Commissioners, I might note that, again, I'll remind everybody on Monday, but we do have a JADO meeting on February 10th, Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and the agenda is out for that meeting. Also, just to note that we are in receipt of the city's version of the interlocal agreement. I believe we got that late yesterday. And so we have not had time to look at that agreement, nor has the counselor's office, so I don't anticipate that being on the agenda for Monday. Look at maybe the 11th or the 15th. We are in session on the 15th. I think it's President's Day, but we are not off that day. So I just don't know how much time it will take for all of us to go through that and review the proposal from the city. But certainly open to feedback on that item, on that topic. Commissioner Archer.
Madam Chair, I was going to make some comments expressing my disappointment in the city council and their action regarding the interlocal agreement, but my horoscope said keep an open mind and a closed mouth. And I'm going to follow that advice, but only for today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cook?
I won't keep my mouth shut. I'll take a different approach.
You were born at a different time than me, obviously.
I likewise was very disappointed with the outcome of the city's decision. In the 3 years that I've been in office, I think this commission has worked very diligently to work on communication between the two bodies and respect of the relationship between the city and the county. And unfortunately, Tuesday night demonstrated a shift between a possible compromise to a sales tax that became a power grab by the city on economic development. And this is very disappointing. It demonstrates a lack of respect of the roles of the governing bodies and how we interact with one another. And I don't believe the City Council is taking this interlocal agreement very seriously. And at this point, if the proposed interlocal agreement was to be presented, I would rather walk away from a bad deal than to burden the taxpayers with 15 years. And at that point, it would mean that I would vote to not levy the sales tax, if that was what I had to vote on. So, that being said, I look forward to being on the agenda for further discussion.
Thank you. In anticipation of knowing that we were going to get the agreement back, I know our departments have been working on some potential solutions. I think I was most disappointed in the fact that it took a hard turn on the focus of the interlocal. And I think the focus of the interlocal really needs to be letting the voters, of which 65% approved this tax, letting them know what are we going to do with economic development, and then when are those projects going to be finished. And so I think refinement of attachment A is something that we're looking at. But I too I'm hesitant whether we can get to consensus. Maybe not here, but the two bodies still have to approve this interlocal agreement. So the interlocal agreement sets forth economic development and the sales tax projects. It also establishes JADO, and then it also, we have the contract with Go Topeka. And there also is a levying resolution that this body only has to pass in order to levy that tax. That time frame is approaching quickly as well. I believe also our notice to Go Topeka, if we are not going to levy the tax, and letting them know if they're going to be in business or not, is 180 days. Correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, but we would have to give notice to Go Topeka as well. So we are up against some time limitations, and we need to work together on this and come into a partnership with the city of Topeka. But I also know that this needs to be in the interest of this whole community, not just by district, but by this whole community. So anyway, enough said. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Tonight I am welcoming the opportunity to attend the Kansas or the Shawnee County Conservation District
As
dinner.
well.
And look forward to being an update or receiving an update on the conservation efforts in the county. I know that they work very diligently in preserving that farmland that Leroy was talking about earlier, and all the efforts from that body. Also, as Candace was talking about 4-H, I might reflect that that's where a lot of us learned our Robert's Rules of Order, how to run a meeting, leadership skills. I know that looking out at Jim Crowell, another 4-H'er from Miami County, those were important activities for us to learn how to speak to groups and get over stage fright, but also know how to exhibit leadership and run a meeting. So, thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There is a need for executive session today for a period not to exceed 30 minutes for matters related to employee-employer negotiations, non-elected personnel, and consultation with legal. Those three items. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We'll be in executive session for 30 minutes.
Oh, that's the thing from the, okay, that's the one for the commission.
All right. Time? Are we sure? Okay. We are back in session. No action needing to be taken at this time. We are adjourned.
Okay, what items are for Commissioner Bureau?